Hello, everyone. This
Let me
is the. Oh yeah, go ahead. I was just going to kick off for the recording. This is the editor group design and product weekly sync call. It is July 21st. So take it away, Michael.
Yeah. Let me just share my screen for a second. So I want to share the screen. Okay. There's probably two things that are on my mind right now. We'll tackle this first one first from Enrique about a new button for attachments, and like I've been thinking about it. We kind of like got away with it in the past because this was essentially attaching files or images in like this little like button for adding images and text. Looking at other competitors, there's usually like an image button, and then like the other one would be like an object or media type thing, and that's that could be a path that we go down where it's like embed image is one separate thing, but then like files another thing. Then I'm thinking about like, what about if we want to embed like Google Sheets or Google Slides into a wiki, because like you want to share those within the company, kind of like snippets kind of vibe. So the things that I'm thinking in my head is like, could this thing be like just a plus sign, and then inside that plus sign has a drop down for like image, and then any other type that we have down the road? Or do we believe that we're going to have such specific actions for an image that image is on its own, and then everything else lives in this like either the icon would be a plus sign, or the classic file attachment, or like a media object? I think this is something we talked about back in Static Site Editor when we started to introduce video embeds, that there's going to be a limit on how much a horizontal toolbar can take on all the objects we want to allow for. So the thing that I'm tossing back and forth on is it image and something else, or is it just add a object into the page, and then based on that, depending on the type of object, then there's the extra stuff around it. So if for an image you can add like alt text or whatever, but that's specific to that, and they kind of share like a same class of this is a media object, and then we'll deal with it. So a file has like maybe like a PDF icon, maybe a preview, maybe not, but and those are things that this opens the door for, but I'm not really 100% sure where to take this. Like I just want to say, hey, let's just add the plus sign and say, you want to add any other random stuff, add it in like this. But or we, yeah. Any opinion on that?
I always have opinions. I don't know if they're going to be helpful, but I really like the way you're thinking about the plus icon, because yes, today for this immediate issue, we could probably just add a little PDF looking icon and then say like that's uploading files. But next milestone, when we want to add 2 or 3 more content types from GitLab Flavor Markdown, that toolbar is eventually going to run out of room. It's already feeling a little cramped. Mm-hmm. For example, we might follow a similar pattern with some of the less frequently used formatting options like superscript and subscript, and like I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that we have in GitLab Flavored Markdown, like math formulas and stuff like that. The plus icon has pros and cons in my mind, mostly pros. The benefit to that plus icon pattern is, like you said, you can have similarly grouped items like media, images, and documents, as well as any other embeddables that we figure out how to do down the road under one menu. The only downside I see is that we're going to need additional UI for each one. So we would be committing to a pattern where like you click plus and then you choose image, and then from there we either need to have a way to transition the modal to provide the specific image information or show an additional bit of UI to handle that. The only reason I think I would advocate going in that direction anyway is that as we move towards a block style inline editing, that's the pattern we'll probably need to do anyway. You're going to have your if we move in the direction that your concepts showed, like we're going to have basically a little menu in the gutter on the left, and you click from there, and that's where you can like change the heading level, or insert an image, or it might be slash commands, or it might be whatever whatever we choose to go with UI. It'll probably need some sort of like modal UI component to fill out the details, and those UI details are different for every type. It might be a file upload, it might be a URL input, it might be paste a math formula or something. I don't know. So I kind of like it in that it seems very necessary to solve for. It might make it a little bit more difficult for this first one because we'll need to define that flow for displaying that UI and how you transition between those and what happens if you cancel it. But I think it's a good pattern to start introducing.
Right, that sounds good. I can probably move ahead with that one to go with like the plus sign for these other elements. We have a bunch of icons within GitLab about like some kind of object with a plus sign. We have a file with a plus sign. So we'll probably use one of those icons to start with because we're focusing on files right now. And we could cross another bridge once we start looking at other types of objects that are not zip files, they're PDFs or files. So
I'll bring up something that I realized you weren't in our kickoff call, and I'm not going to hold Enrique to it for 14.2, but he did mention something, which is that on the side of TipTap and Prosmere, the actual implementation of uploading a PDF or a zip file or something like that in the document is very, very close to being able to upload images, media like audio and video. And so he, without committing to anything, said that it's kind of in the back of his mind that he might be able to just do all of that at once. So knowing that you have a pattern that could scale to show a plus and then upload like a binary file or a zip PDF, whatever, and then also image and audio that could potentially be executed all at once, that kind of goes along with his stretch goal to over deliver on this feature.
Yes, Amishu and Enrique are over delivering.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that they are absolutely, and what they're doing is they're finding and explaining the commonalities between these and how they're not all actually distinct content types, and that the actual process of implementing these, there's some overlap, and so finding efficiencies there is really helpful, and being able to plan for it in the UI helps them as well.
Yep. Cool. Thanks for that. And the other thing on my mind is this lovely like interaction, the top nav. And this is where I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm trying to do. I have on the side, I have a search that's here, and like I have extra links that take me somewhere else. And I there's even like a dividing line. It's like, so I was like, okay, how does this work accessibility? So I open it. I was like, oh, the focus is on here. And I was like, oh, I wonder what Google do to kind of explain that you're in this area, but not like on the menu, which is the main kind of concern. So I'm just going to turn on voiceover. I don't have no idea if it's going to work while I'm on the. Okay, I'm just going to move the screen over here. So no, uh, okay, okay. I'm just going to turn that off. But this is what it says. Like I was like, oh, when I turned on voiceover, um, it says like cookies, another site. This is sub page back button. I'm like, oh, how does it know that it's a sub page? And I was looking into this, and I was like, oh, this could be like the thing I was looking for all this time. Um, and there's this thing in like ARIA labels called ARIA role description. And I was like, yes, this is it. Like you can describe whatever you want in here. So click away, navigate cookies. This is data subpage. I'm like, this is would solve people's concern about not knowing that you're focused on the child element, like the page and not like the menu. Um, but before I like went to celebrate, like I read up on ARIA role description, and as lovely as it may sound, there's like hundreds of articles saying like this is like code smells, this is terrible, this only works for whatever language you stick in here. So uh, if we put English in here and the user is using like a Portuguese language on
Mm.
their thing, a button would be called out button in Portuguese, but like then this comment will go there and that would like break everything. So I was like, close, but like not a solution that will get entertained here. So um yes, where I'm kind of like finding where I kind of want to land is somewhere where somehow the focus is on the first item, saying that like this is like the expanded this menu is expanded and it's called projects. This is like um item, there's 8 items in the list, and if you press tab, then you jump into this world. That's the biggest thing that I want to try to figure out is tab will jump you into the right hand side if this somehow we say that this is an expanded state rather than going down, because I think if we do that, that is less of an evil for both. Like you're not focused right away on this, but it is a lesser evil than trying to traverse 9 tabs to get to the focus state. Um, yeah, so just trying to figure out that right now in a way that's accessibility friendly as well as interaction friendly.
That makes a lot of sense. You had my hopes up with that ARIA description, but
Me
I,
too.
I just
I
googled to
understand.
see if there was any like plans to support translation or auto translation of it in Chromium, and it doesn't seem like there is.
Mm-hmm. So my guess is that Google, being its size, is that they potentially could just have a whole bunch of translation that they're like injecting in real time into that role description. I never tried, but maybe that's how they're getting around it. Um, and I don't see us doing that anytime soon to like have
Uh,
custom messages just for this interaction case that I just want this to be focused. So like
Well,
it's
why
possible if
why
it
is
feels
that
overkill.
not why is that not like any other translation on the page, right? It has an presumably an internationalized you know, uh, key on the back end that can get plug in the right value when the page is rendered.
Hmm.
I mean, I would have to Google it more. I definitely see the people saying this doesn't work and try to understand why, but theoretically it seems like
So,
it's like any other content on the page that can be internationalized with
so what we would need to see is if you can set that at the time the page is rendered rather than hard coding the description. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I would be curious what happens to Google if you change the language of your browser, but we can try that on our own time.
Yeah.
It's worth continuing to look
Um,
into, but I like this pattern a lot, Michael. With and we talked about before 14.0, defaulting to having the projects sort of in an active state when you open the menu. I think that could really reduce the um, number of clicks and cognitive workload to get to your projects. If we click the menu, it's already open and I can tab over to the search and start typing. That
yeah.
seems that seems very quick. We could even map the menu to do we already map the menu to a shortcut, um,
I don't think so.
M M or something like that, and then M tab type, and then you could be searching your uh, projects.
Hmm.
So would the idea be maybe like you can tab over to your projects, but you can arrow down through the left-hand list? Is that what you're saying?
So I proposed the idea maybe 2 weeks ago around tabbing takes you into one of these areas, but arrows move you up and down. And that's the interaction pattern for tabs. So tabs move like that. So if you have tab items, they move with arrow
Mm-hmm.
keys. So if it's a horizontal, it's left, right. If it's vertical, it's up, down. Um, the pushback on that is like these items down here, milestones to admin, are actually really links and they're not really tabs. And it's only like these two tabs that are like that. Um, and it kind of breaks away from so that's kind of like the initial pushback on that cement like really it's doesn't really work like that. And even if we had empty states on here, the tab, once you tab on it, then it makes the right side come into focus. So there's no real correlation there. It's actually like an extra step in the keyboard world to jump from here to here to like click a button. Or where
Mm-hmm.
what you really wanted to do is just go here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm looking at how other applications kind of get around using traditional containers or components like tabs or mechanisms like that to kind of roll your own kind of interaction. So yeah,
Yeah, that makes
I think
sense.
we're close, but
Yeah,
it feels like something's just off. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think you're really close to getting to a small change with a big improvement. Like
Mhm.
just moving that divider line up, so visually they're distinguishable, and auto focusing projects, letting you tab into the search field. Those that would solve many of the concerns that have been brought up by feedback.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to speak for Chad and Paul or whoever picks up the issue, but it does sound less disruptive, and there'd be less work on the in the code than some of the other re-architectures that we've talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of did like this, like maybe because it could be a structure change to make the relationship that the left side is related to the right side when you tab and stuff like that. But we'll see where we finally land. But yeah, it's good to have you on board on this call chat. Just like, kind of like a heads up.
I dropped the note in the. I don't know that I'm going to remember anything, but I dropped the note in the document. I think it's probably one of the articles you read, but it seems like it says in there you can internationalize this value. You just have
Okay.
to do it, right? But maybe not everybody
Mm-hmm.
does.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is the exact article I was reading too.
So I should know this after all this time, but when we're making UI labels and stuff, obviously we have a process for internationalization, but who does the internationalization?
I think it's just magic. There's
Got it.
so you put the English word, but there's like this underscore underscore method. And you just wrap the English word, and then there's all of these .po and .pot files, and you have to, whenever you change something related to one of those, you have to run this process before you commit it, or else your build will fail. And presumably that flags us to go, you know, have some paid translators internationalize that new strings somewhere. But that's just speculation.
Interesting.
So I
Interesting.
actually do know a little bit about this.
Oh,
Of
I didn't
course
even
you
realize
would. I
the phone.
forgot you were here.
Yes. I,
Sorry, we have an internet outage at my house, so I'm having to dial into my meetings this morning. If you search on the documentation site for the word crowd in, all one word, CROWDIN, that's where the translation files get posted. And sadly, there is no paid somebody, it's all volunteer. Surprise!
Mhm.
I ruin everything.
That
Magic.
that sounds very much like the GitLab way. Leverage the community to help the product.
So
So
mostly what I said, but free somebody's maybe.
Yeah.
so in theory, were we to embrace that uh, that description field, we would generate a localization file, provide the English, and hope somebody else wants to help us fill in the gaps for other languages. But it would be possible in theory, based on our initial research, it might be possible to provide that localization in the label or in the description.
Yes, in theory. I think this is one of those things like all these solutions are possible. It's like a time effort kind of deal,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I mean, for
of
this
course.
one it doesn't seem like that much technical effort. Like you add
mm,
this attribute, and like I said, you just put whatever the English text of it is with, the
mm,
underscore underscore method around it, and you're done. It doesn't seem
mm,
like a hard thing to do at all, as long as the copy would probably be the hardest thing of it.
mhm. Agreed there.
So in
That's it
summary,
on my
don't get too
plate.
discouraged about the the use of that being limited to English, but also let's not rely entirely on it because we may or may not get translations.
Yep, that's it for me today.
Cool. I don't have anything specific. Chad or Amy, want anything to add?
Nothing for me, and I got to bounce.
Cool. Well, thanks for
Cheers.
joining and adding that context.
Yep. I don't think so. We've got to talk about the snippet embedding later, so don't need to do that here.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for setting that up too. That was my next step. I told David as I was meeting with Matthew. We were in the meeting talking about how our next step is to set up a meeting with exactly the attendees. So, and then it came through, and I said, "Well, save me some time." So great. Looking forward to that this afternoon. Obviously, Michael, you will be asleep, so we'll try and remember to record. All right. Thanks, everyone. I will see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.